Maintaining your ceramic-coated vehicle.
Hi, I'm Ivan.
I'm Nick.
And this is the DIY Detail Podcast. Today we're going to go over strategies to maintain your ceramic coating and stuff that honestly really isn't a good idea sometimes. And, you know, we watch YouTube just like you guys do. And we see all these people talking about ceramic coatings and how to maintain them and special things that they're doing and things that they're not doing. And we'd like to make it simpler for you.
And then there are some folks out there who are saying they may have tried a coating and they think it might be failing in certain spots. And while it's super hard to diagnose every little thing, we want to know that we see you, we hear you, and our primary mission here at DIY Detail is education, right, Ivan?
Exactly. So with that, you know, one of the first things, why do you have a ceramic coating? And that is a question a lot of people, unfortunately, I think some people get it out of peer pressure. Once they get it though, it works, it's great, it's fun. But why do you want a ceramic coating? One of the benefits of ceramic coating is easier to clean, easier to maintain, and you don't have to wash it as often. Now, as detailers, we see the benefits as great beading and, oh, it looks cool. But for most people daily driving their vehicle that aren't detailers, they have other criteria. And let's try to maintain that criteria as long as possible. And that is ease of maintenance and not having to clean it as often.
There is something to be said about a polished and ceramic coated vehicle for how well it looks and how it does self-clean, Ivan. I mean, those are just the two things that I think are the 1-2 punch. It's going to look better when it's clean, and it's going to stay cleaner longer / be easier to clean. So it's all about sort of like the looks, the ease of clean. But let's talk about some of the issues that we've spotted online recently and kind of address those.
Well, one of them is people thinking that a ceramic coating never gets contaminated. Ceramic coatings do get contaminated, and there's a lot of different types of contamination. One contamination that sort of the silent killer of ceramic coatings is mineral contamination. We're nearing, hopefully, the end of winter. I know Puxatawny Phil did see his shadow, so he said 6 more weeks, but he's only got a 39% average, so we can't trust him. That being said...
A great movie, however. I watched it with my kids recently.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day is a classic.
Yeah, and if you're Canadian, it's Wiart and Willie. So, you know, we all have our groundhogs. Wiart and Willie has a 2% better average than Puxatawny Phil. Okay. Nonetheless, they're both well under 50%, so there's no, don't trust a groundhog for weather. That being said, we're getting closer to spring. I can feel it. It's warmer. And yes, I've got a persistent cough. The cough is there, not because of a cold. It's allergies in my case. And, it's there. So excuse me if I cough into the microphone.
Plus, you've been doing Mobile Tech Expo. You went to a training in Florida where it seemed like a lot of folks got sick. You burned the candle at both ends, Ivan. You
I
need
do.
a little bit of rest. But hey, you've been resting up like Puxatawny Phil. And it's about to be detailing season. So you do need your rest. Because then it's truly nonstop for you.
Yeah. But that being said, one of the worst contamination and the one we don't see, we don't feel is mineral contamination. Thankfully, our water spot remover is now back in stock, and it should not go out of stock going forward, and available in gallons now too. So, but water spots are part of what the water spot remover does. But thanks to our friend Rick at Rad Garage, we've got a great term, and that is mineral cleansing. And that is removing that little mineral content. If you're driving in the north and you have snow on the roads, that means you probably also have salt or calcium chloride or something to that effect to help melt the snow. Those snow melting chemicals attach themselves to your paint, and they, for lack of a better term, fill the pores of the coating, making it so that it looks like it's not there anymore. It's like, oh, my coating has failed. It's not beading anymore, especially on the sides. Especially on the sides is the big key factor here. On the sides, that's where that salt accumulates, and you can wash it. You can do a contact wash. It's still there. That's where water spot remover comes into play. So,
and we talk about decontaminating paint, but I think before we came out with water spot remover, there aren't many people out there who did anything more than a clay or a decon towel or iron remover.
Yeah.
They didn't use water spot remover, and that is incredibly helpful to rejuvenate the coating, to bring back the water beading, Ivan. What is actually happening there? Like, why is that such a big deal in terms of ceramic coating maintenance?
Well, it's actually maintenance on any vehicle, not just a ceramic coated vehicle. But what we're doing is removing the minerals from the surface. And like I said, the minerals, we can't see them, we can't feel them. I've never licked a car to see if we can taste them, but they're there. And the water spot remover is great at removing those and bringing back the beading that we expect.
So Ivan, the minerals are actually clogging up our clear coat or our coating, and then that's preventing the water beading, or kind of, I mean, I know, but
Yeah.
I want to ask because people love the detailed explanation. They want to know, so is it causing water beading? Is it like ceramic gloss we're putting on there, but we don't think it is? Like, what is water spot remover actually doing to the coated surface?
So it's removing those minerals. That's all it's doing. It's slightly acidic. It's lactic acid that's the main ingredient in it. And it's taking off the minerals, exposing the paint, the coating, the sealant, whatever you have on your surface. And those minerals make it so that the water just sort of sits there and hangs out on the paint. It doesn't bead, it doesn't sheet, it just slowly goes away. And that is one of the reasons why water spot remover is so popular in our line, because it happens to work. But also, people have realized over the last several years that decontamination doesn't just mean iron remover and doesn't just mean a clay bar or a decontamination towel. It also means minerals. And those minerals, once you remove them from the surface, the beading is back. You've re-exposed the coating that you worked hard to put on your vehicle.
So it's still there. You just don't realize it because it's layered under all the minerals. Got it.
Yeah. Now, another thing is soap. And washing with soap, nothing wrong with it, but soaps tend to leave a film. And especially if you're dealing with a cheaper soap, they leave a film on the surface. And some people have noticed that, they're washing their car, it looks okay, but when they're done washing, it's like, they're doing the rinse and it's not beading much. But then they come back and they rinse again and it's like, oh, the beading's increasing. And they rinse again and, the coating's coming back to life. All they're doing is rinsing away that, the soap film that's on there. And one of the ways to really see how your coating is performing is once you wash it, dry it, then wet it again. Because when you've just rinsed the soap away, you may have that soap film still on the vehicle. And that's where towel drying really helps. Towel drying will help remove that soap film. Whereas those of you that blow dry your vehicles, even though it's a lot of fun, you're not getting the best cleaning you can out of your wash process. So
you've washed very well, right?
Yeah.
But at the end, you think, I don't want to scratch my paint up. Let me just use my Master Blaster or my forced air or my leaf blower. You're thinking that that's the safest way, but from what Ivan has told me over and over again, and I'm going to believe him here, a lot of the minerals from your water are actually drying on your paint. So you're actually kind of like recoating the surface in some mineral film.
Yeah.
That's not what you want.
No, and there's that. And if you're washing with soap, you've rinsed it away. Not all soaps rinse perfectly clean. So you're leaving a bit of, for lack of a better term, but one that people understand, a bit of soap scum on there. And that soap builds up over time. And you have this build up that, again, you need to cleanse a little more deeply for that. And if you are getting that soap accumulation, it comes down to washing the car, and then you're going to have to use something like All Clean. Now, when you use All Clean diluted 15-to-1 on the surface, it's actually going to scar the coating temporarily. And this is another thing where people, they start throwing things at the car because the beading's not coming back. And when you've used like an iron remover or the all-purpose cleaner, you're actually slightly scarring the surface, and it's very temporary. A couple hours and it's back, maybe a day at most. But what happens is you've chemically shocked the surface. The surface is like, what am I doing? And eventually it regroups and calms down, takes a deep breath, and it's back to its normal self. But in that time where it's shocked, it's not performing the way it should. You have a shock in your life, you're not going to perform as well as you normally would. Same thing, you've put a harsh chemical on there. And one of those, trade-offs is people will do this, especially, we get calls, we have people on our Facebook group, we have we watch other people's videos too, and they just keep throwing more and more things at it thinking that it's going to get better, and all they're doing is shocking the surface even more and scarring it even more. Temporary scarring, don't worry. But what they do, and then the next week they wash it, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, the beating's back. And that's because that scarring has healed up.
So I guess what would be our most recommended way of maintaining a ceramic coated vehicle? And then the real question is, like, how do you know if the coating just actually failed?
Yeah.
Because that can happen.
It can happen. It's very rare. And the only way to really make a coating fail is through abrasion. And that abrasion can be driving. It can be going through a car wash. It can be poor wash technique, or just polishing the car. But
what do you mean by poor wash technique? Because I know that if we don't prep the car originally very well,
yeah,
you can have coating appear to be very strong, nice water beads right away, but the longevity is not going to be there because underneath all that, we didn't properly prep the surface. So prep is something I hate to put a spotlight on someone when they're like, well, it's not performing. And I'm like, well, did you do it wrong? Because I hated when you did that to me when you used to work at another company. I was like, I hated when I got blamed for user error. I'm like, I bought your damn products. Now help me with the support. So I don't want to be blamed.
No.
But it possibly is my fault. So just know it could be your fault. You might have prepped it wrong. We're not blaming you.
No.
It's possible that happened. It's possible the coating failed. So I never want to eliminate that variable. There are so many variables, Ivan.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables, and let's start with prep. One of the biggest variables is what did you polish with? And that's one thing. Next is what did you use as a prep solution? And a lot of people are still stuck on using IPA and diluting IPA with water and doing all sorts of things like that.
Isopropyl alcohol.
Yeah, that is not a good prep solution. We don't care what brand of coating you're using. Use the coating preps spray that your coating manufacturer makes as well. They've designed it to work together. The exception to that rule is C6 app, the adhesion promoter polish. It is a deep cleaner and it will make any coating perform better. But that being said, you've prepped it, you know you've done the prep properly. A year goes by, you're washing the car and it's not beating the way you're expecting. That comes down to, is the coating failed? Is it clogged? Is it covered? Or is it just gone? And the just gone comes from abrasion. And that can be multiple car washes. Now, we have it, and Nick will put a link down below. I had a little Fiat. And in the span of 6 months, took it through 74 car washes just to see how the coating performed, because half the car was coated, the other half wasn't. And it wasn't, driver's side, passenger side. It was actually every other panel. So it looked like a checkerboard when we were done. But the coated sections performed much better through the car washes. They stayed cleaner longer. The car just looked better on the coated sections. But nonetheless, I went through.
We also noticed less car wash induced scratch/marring.
Right, exactly.
On the coated sections, which we never ever tell you that coatings will prevent scratches.
No.
It was very cool to see that they were minimal compared to the non-coated sections.
Right, because less dirt accumulated on those sections. And since less dirt accumulated when it's going through the car wash has less to deal with and less chance of moving that dirt along the surface because there's less dirt to move along the surface. So the brushes still do what brushes do, but the actual what's on the surface, and when the brush first contacts it and drags it along the surface before the brush, moves away, that is what a coating does better in terms of a car wash. Since you have less grit on the surface, you have less chance of scratching with that grit on the surface. But we digress here. So you've taken your car through a car wash 50, 60, 100 times. Yes, it's going to degrade the coating. And it degrades the coating through abrasion. It also degrades the coating through products that the car wash puts on your car. Even if you buy the inexpensive, no sealant, no wax, they still put a little drying aid on at the end. And a lot of car washes, the drying aid is basically mineral oil. So there's a lot, and there's other formulations out there, but the most basic cheap washes. And I made it a point to find the worst car wash in every city we were in. I would ask people, what's the worst car wash in town? And that's the one I would go for, because we wanted to show, the extreme case on that car. What happened, the coated sections weren't clogged. The uncoated sections, the water just sat there. It just didn't go off. But car washes put chemicals on your car whether you want them to or not. And those chemicals make it easier for them to blow dry the car when you go out of the tunnel. But at the same time, they can also clog and not harm, but mask your coating.
So Ivan, the car wash leaves stuff on the paint. We've kind of established that.
Yeah. And hand washing can do the same thing. And that's where using quality products comes into play. If you're using a cheap dollar store soap or something like that, you can be leaving a soap film on the surface, especially like we said, if you're blow drying. And you'll say, well, I'm using DI water. Yes, you're using DI water. That's great. You're not leaving minerals on the surface, but that soap relies on you drying the car to remove all of it from the surface. So if you're going to be blow drying, know that your coating may not perform as well. And you can fix that by just washing, decontaminating the car, starting over.
Unless you're using Dawn dish soap, right, Ivan? Then that's like the panacea. That's perfect for everything.
Oh yeah, and Dawn dish soap. There's a lot of myths around it in the detailing industry. And no, Dawn does not remove waxes. Dawn does not remove ceramics. Dawn does not remove sealants. What Dawn does, it leaves sheeting action on your dishes. That sheeting action is also on your car, and that sheeting action is designed to stop beading. That's what Dawn does. It reduces beading so that when your dishes dry, you don't have little water spots on them. So you'll notice when you take a plate out of the dish, your dish soap, and rinse it off, put it on the rack, the water doesn't bead. If you grab a brand new plate out of from the store, put water on it, ceramic plates bead like crazy. But once you wash it in dish soap, they stop beading. It's not because you've taken anything off the surface. It's because you're leaving something on the surface. And that, sheeting action, before they started cleaning ducts, that was their tagline, with sheeting action. Now that they're cleaning ducts, they're happy with that. But that being said, any sort of soap will or can leave something on the surface. And a lot of soaps rely on the mechanical action of the towel to take care of that.
So how do I take care of my ceramic coated vehicle? There's just so much, information out there, and we just want to give people the best info they can.
So be simpler in what you're doing. And, this is another thing that a lot of detailing enthusiasts do, and detailers too, professional detailers, but especially the enthusiasts. They like trying things, right? So one week when they're drying their car, they're using this drying aid. And the next week they're using this sealant. And the next week they're using a spray-on rinse-off product. And the week after that. And those products just keep accumulating and accumulating on top of the ceramic coating.
Yeah, but that sounds so fun, the way you said that. I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to try new products.
Yeah, it is. But know that when you're trying all these products, you're potentially hiding your ceramic coating. And some of the, spray-on rinse-off products like our quick beads or ceramic gloss are actually quite long-lasting. So it's not going to go away in the next wash or the next two washes. And people tend to overuse those. And not in your sense of, putting 3 sprays where you should have put 1, but just using it at every single wash. You don't need to do that. Now, you want some form of drying aid if you're washing with soap and water and rinsing. If you're using a rinseless wash with a ceramic coating, you're actually better off not using a drying aid. You're better off not putting a sealant or, a spray wax or something on there. If you're dealing with soap and water, so you're washed with Incredible Suds, you rinse it away, then you need some form of drying aid. And we have ceramic gloss that you can use for that. You can actually just spray on a bit of rinseless wash and use that as your drying aid, which is probably one of the best ways of doing it in terms of not leaving anything behind. Then we have quick beads. So that's a rinse on, spray off, or, spray on, rinse off drying aid that works phenomenally well. And, the ceramic gloss quick beads can last 3, 6, 10, 12 months, depending on how the car is maintained and used. So it's not going to wash off in the next wash. So you're building these products up. And where I've seen it over the years, people that, really have a problem with keeping their ceramic coating going or alive or however you want to look at it are the people that they try a different product every week. And those products interact with each other. They build on each other. And eventually it gets to a point where the coating is just not performing. And the only way to remove those products is just wash your car for the next 6 months without putting a drying aid on, and they'll wear away and your coating will come back. But if you want to use something, we have one product in the C6 line, which is C6 Mist. And the name really indicates how you should be using it. So just a light mist, you don't want a lot on the surface, and it's not a long-term protection because we've taken into account that you're using this on a ceramic coating. If your car has no ceramic coating, you're using C6 Mist, you'll be disappointed in the longevity of it because it's not designed to last. It's designed to provide drying lubrication as you're drying your car, to safely dry your car, to make it easier to dry. It has a few gloss enhancers in it. They are temporary. They don't last very long. But just that satisfaction when you're done washing your car, C6 Mist is what's going to give you the best longevity from your coating without masking your coating. Now, there's some people that use ceramic gloss after every wash, and they're great with it. They're having fun. Their car's, the car's beating, it's performing, beautifully. And that's great. It's when people start mixing and matching products every other time they wash a car that you can get some strange interactions because you still have some of that ceramic gloss or that spray wax or whatever you're using on the surface. Now you're putting another chemical on there that bonds differently, that reacts a little differently. And over time, they accumulate, they build up.
What do you say to someone who's living in a winter climate where they just get a lot of snow and winter takes its toll, and they're afraid of the scratch pads, so they don't take it through there, but they're not really washing their car? Next thing you know, it's been 3 months since they've washed their car, and they're kind of fearful, like, when all this snow melts, what have I left myself with? And I'm not asking for a friend, because this is me. Like, what do you recommend?
So in the winter, if you can, go through a touch-free car wash. Now, touch-free car washes are not without their issues. They use very harsh chemicals. They use a low pH, then a high pH. So those will affect your trims. Anything that you didn't coat will slightly suffer from that wash. And no, they don't do a great job at washing everything off. But what they do is they sort of cleanse the surface off, get some of that salt off, get some of that grit off, so that if you do get the big snowfall and it starts melting, that snow isn't dragging that grit off of your car and scratching it on the way down.
Ooh, now you're reminding me of what's actually happening.
Yeah.
All right, so then there's the people who, everyone's watching every dollar like a hawk, but there are the people who are like, money's no object, in the sense of, I want to know what the best way to do this is.
Yeah.
If Ivan could recommend the best way to maintain my ceramic coated vehicle, summer, winter, how would you do it?
The way
How would you do it?
Yeah.
Money no object. You've got all the tools and everything. Like, how's the best way to do it? I just ceramic coated my baby. I paid someone to do it, or I bought all the tools and I bought the polisher and I did it myself. I got C6 Hydrolite. Like, how do I maintain it now?
So for me, in the ideal world, so I'm in a shop, I have a pressure washer, all that stuff. I will start by applying or foaming on some Incredible Suds, letting it dwell, let it do its thing, then rinse that off. Then wash with rinseless, dry with C6 Mist. It's that simple. And if you don't have access to a pressure washer, you don't have the foam cannon, or you simply don't want to do that, then spray the rinseless on, let it dwell for a few minutes, rinse it off, spray it on again, wash with the rinseless wash, dry with C6 Mist. That is what I do. That's my regime, or Sylvie's regime. She's the one that washes the car more often than I do. But that's how we maintain the vehicle. Now, if you like using Incredible Suds, very simple. Foam on your Incredible Suds, rinse it off, foam it on again, do your contact wash, rinse it off, and then you can either use C6 Mist as a rinsing aid or as a spray and wipe. Your choice. The key to using C6 Mist is the least amount you use, the better it is. You don't want to use a lot of C6 Mist. You want, literally, like the name says, a very light mist on the surface, and you're either spreading it with the towel when you're drying or spreading it with your pressure washer or a hose as a rinse aid. And the less you use, the better mist will perform for you.
Let's say you're a very well-to-do individual and you could afford to hire someone, right, to clean your cars for you? Like you're talking about ideal. Like I want to optimize my life in every facet, including my cars. What would ideally be the wash routine? Every 4 days, every week, every day, like every 2 weeks, kind of like what would be ideal or optimal for my car's paint?
As needed. If your car isn't dirty, you don't need to wash it. If your car is dirty, the dirtier it gets, the more you need to wash it. If it's a daily driver, you need to wash it maybe every 3 or 4 days, depending on where you're driving. If you're driving through a snowstorm, then yes, you might want to wash it more often. If you're driving in Southern California where it barely ever rains, then you may not need to wash it for 2 weeks, even though it is a daily driver. So it really comes down to your situation, where you're driving, what you're doing with the vehicle. Is it garage kept? Is it sitting outside? Is it pollen season? And a little aside here on pollen. Pollen is extremely abrasive. You don't want to just rinse pollen off the car. If you're dealing with pollen, you definitely want to pre-treat it with either Incredible Suds or Rinseless Wash to make sure that you're lifting it off the surface, emulsifying it before hosing it off, because pollen is very abrasive.
Well, that's good advice. I guess one other question I have is just in terms of someone's out there and they are convinced their coating has failed. They have water spot removered it, decon towel with iron remover. They've done the wash process before that. They're not getting the beating back. We're not here to lay blame. We're just saying we have a failed panel in their eyes.
Yeah.
What should they do then?
So at that point, you have a couple choices. Look back over what you've done in the past. And again, if you've tried different sealants and things like that, your coating may just be buried in all of those different chemicals. If you haven't done that, you haven't used any drying aids or sealants, and your coating just seems to have failed, then a light repolish and start over. So you don't need to, you want to do the decontamination, obviously. So a good decontamination, a light polish that the gold standard with the gold pad. The red pad isn't really enough to abrade the coating, even with the gold standard. So you want something a little more substantial. So the yellow waffle pad with the gold standard polish, give it a quick, left, right, up, down, left, right, wipe it off, C6 app or panel prep, and then apply another layer of coating. And, for some people, that's a lot of fun to do. And we don't suggest polishing your car every 6 months or every year. But if you're just doing a light polish, like we suggested, just, a couple passes with the gold standard polish and reapplying coating, that's perfectly fine. And some people love doing that. They love playing with different coatings. And, this spring they want to try this coating, and next spring they want to try another coating. That's how you can do that, is you need that light polish in between. You're not going for full paint correction, because every time you're polishing paint, you're removing clear coat. And every time you remove clear coat, you're diminishing its longevity, you're diminishing the protection on your vehicle. But a very light pass, left, right, up, down, left, right, speed 2 on the DA or speed 1 on the rotary, you haven't removed that much paint, you haven't removed that much clear coat. You've basically just abraded the coating that was there, so now you can put another coating on top of it.
I love repolishing the car often.
Yeah,
I've done that on my Subaru. You know what's really fun about it is like it brightens up the glass a lot.
Yeah.
The glass just seems to get crusty with all kinds of minerals and water spots, and it's a fun process to kind of buzz over the whole car, brighten up the glass, and then add that layer of protection. I do that about once a year because I don't have a garage kept vehicle, and it just feels like the elements get kind of wild. And
yeah,
I like to recoat my car once a year with whatever, it's been Hydrolite here, it's been something else there, and
yeah.
We're not saying that's what these products are designed for, right? I'm sure my original coating from 5 years ago is still there if I just had faith in it.
Yeah.
But it is a subset of the population that likes to do that, Ivan, and I understand them. So
yeah, no, as enthusiasts, we love playing on our cars, and we love polishing, and we love cleaning them. So yes, you can apply a different coating every 6 months if you want. You just need to be careful not to go overboard with the polishing. You just want to polish enough to abrade the coating that's there. You're trying to not remove clear coat, because eventually you're going to wear through. Now, another thing that we've recently added to our line is our show-winning wax. And that is something that a lot of people have been told over the years, never wax a coating. Well, the reason you've been told not to wax a coating in the past is most waxes contain abrasives, and those abrasives will wear away your coating. So yes, it's going to damage your coating if you're using what's called a cleaner wax or a wax with abrasives. Our wax has 0 abrasives in it. So you can wax it on top of your coating. And what that does, especially if you're, at risk of water spots, and at risk of water spots generally means you've got a neighbor with a sprinkler or you're forced to park beside a sprinkler. That's the worst case for water spots. The wax absorbs those minerals and lets go of them, because wax is not a long lasting thing. 30 to 90 days if you're lucky. That's the lifetime of a wax. If you're in Arizona in the summer, you're lucky to get 2 weeks out of a wax, because heat is also something that degrades a wax. But wax is a good way, our show winning wax is a good way of maintaining a ceramic coating.
So you can wax a coated vehicle and it's fun. It'll give it that glow. It'll give you that meditative process.
Yeah.
Ivan, any other thoughts from the countless YouTube videos that we've seen and people talking about maintaining coated vehicles and testing them and trying to throw everything in the kitchen sink at them, and kind of any takeaways for the end user at home who just wants like the best information?
Yeah. Be patient, for one thing. So once you clean your car, dry it, then rinse it off. You'll see that maybe the soap you're using leaves a residue or something like that. Be consistent. So I know we all have fun trying different products. And if you're trying all those different products, know that you may be affecting your coating. You may not, but you may be affecting your coating. And that could be what you're seeing when you're trying to, look at, well, is my coating still here? It's probably still there under all those different layers of stuff. But if you enjoy doing that, keep doing it. It's not going to damage the coating. You're actually just building on top of it. So you're not, the coating is still there doing what it needs to do, which is protecting your car chemically. So coatings are great against bird bombs and insects and salt and calcium and stuff like that. They act as a barrier. Then, from there, improve your wash technique a little bit. Make sure that your wash technique isn't leaving anything on the surface. And from there, you'll get much better performance from your coating and better looks, because eventually all those things on top of your coating can dull it and can make it look like the coating isn't there anymore. You're not getting that gloss that you so much loved, or the slickness that you so much loved when you first installed the coating.
Yeah, it's interesting how you say that something like an all-purpose cleaner can scar temporarily.
Yeah.
But these are chemically resistant coatings, so they can handle the all-purpose cleaner. They can handle the low pH, the high pH.
Yeah.
That's what you have a coating for.
Yeah, 100%. That's why you have the coating. But know that a coating can, like I've mentioned, I think the best term is scarring, or it's shocked. Once you've shocked that, give it a few minutes to calm down and regroup and get its life back together, and then you'll be fine, and the coating will be fine. But once in a while, you do need to shock it. You do need to do that deep cleaning, that decontamination. Coatings still get contaminated. So you still need, once in a while, and again, this is very situational. If it's a garage kept car that only goes out on Saturday or Sunday to go to a car show once in a while, or go for a nice little drive in the country on a beautiful day, you may not need to decontaminate it for 5 years. But if it's a car that's sitting outside 24/7, gets driven in heavy traffic, gets parked in an industrial area, you may need to decontaminate it once a month. And so there's no set date that we can say you have to decontaminate your car every 3 months or every 6 months or every year or whatever. It's as needed. You're the only person that can determine that need. Unfortunately, we can counsel you, we can give you ideas, but there's no way of anybody else knowing other than you when it's time to decontaminate.
So trust your instincts, continue to get educated, continue to keep washing your car. The more time you have on the front lines of actually doing this stuff and not just listening to us, but actually being with your car and seeing what's going on, the more all this stuff is just going to start to click. So time takes time. Experience is important for a reason. And every single day, you're going to become a better detailer, Ivan.
Yeah. And remember one thing. It's supposed to be enjoyable. It's supposed to be fun. Don't overthink it. Just go out there, wash your car, have fun, then go for a nice drive. A freshly washed car, I know this is anecdotal, but a lot of people swear by this, that a freshly washed car is a little faster, sounds better, maybe gets better fuel economy too. So these are all things. And, when you're driving, your smile just may be a little brighter. So that's
a friend of mine saw my car recently and was like, I've never seen the inside of your car this clean. What's going on? And I'm like, I finally realized it, that if your home is dirty or your car is cluttered, your mind is cluttered. And I'm trying to give this the best chance I had. So I think it's truly good for people's mental health to have clean things.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer that we're doing good work here, Ivan. We're preaching the gospel of clean cars.
Yeah.
And if you believe in that same, not anything religious here, if you like clean cars, if you believe in clean cars, check out this video. We'll help continue your education, and hopefully you can have fun doing it.
Have fun.